Autonomous driving cars can't avoid what they can't see, but what if they could? Most people carry a GPS sensor around with them that is connected to a network. Cell phones. What if autonomous cars could detect the GPS of anonymous nearby signals and calculate intercepting trajectories? Then they could take proactive, early action to avoid potential collisions.
Let's talk about our planning. Since the dynamic model of the system is nonlinear and non-convex in general, MPC may not be able to find a feasible solution in an acceptable time. Thus, a planning layer is needed for generating a reference trajectory. Therefore, we propose an IDM projection planner as the up layer of the MPC. As the right figure shows, the S remaining represent the distance between the obstacle and the intersection point along the obstacle's reference, as inter represents the distance between the ego vehicle and the intersection point along the ego vehicle reference. With these two distances, we can project the obstacle on the ego vehicle reference. That's our IDM projection method. We feed the corresponding S alpha and delta V alpha into the IDM. We can get the desired acceleration at that time step and then generate a trajectory. Our GPS-based ahead announcement method was based on following. When the obstacle is far from the ego vehicle's eyesight region, we will consider the GPS signal of the obstacle and prepare for the future interaction. However, the GPS signal is pretty noisy. For robustness, the obstacle range will be based on the maximum GPS noisy. And after the obstacle gets into the ego vehicle eyesight region, we will use the information of the obstacle directly since we can see it now.
We use the bicycle model as our kinematic model to describe the car. We can see from the picture, X and Y are the vehicle's coordinates, V is the speed, psi is the current heading, while beta and A are respectively the angle of V with respect to the car axis and the acceleration. LR is the distance from the center of the mass to the front axle. In the design of the MPC, C and U are the states and input. We define a quadratic cost function to optimize our path and the velocity with the desired trajectory computed from IDM, and also minimize the rate change of acceleration and steering. For constraints, we use the bicycle dynamic model, set initial states, states bounds, input bounds, and its rate change bounds, so that the vehicle can follow the desired path with a smooth acceleration and steering.
Here are our results of our MPC controller tracking a general reference. On the left, we have a perfect model of the MPC controller with no added noise. As we can see from the video, our controller works pretty well. On the right, we have a noisy dynamics model of our system. This is when we add random noise to the current state. Despite the noise, the tracking performance of our controller is still pretty good, with similar plots for both velocity and inputs. Here we have our IDM planner integrated with our MPC controller. On the left, we have an eyesight-based scenario where the sensors of the ego vehicle are limited to what it can see. Because of the walls blocking the moving obstacle from the ego vehicle, it has very little time to change trajectory and thus collides with the obstacle. This issue does not happen on the right side with the GPS-based scenario, since the IDM planner in this case has access to the noisy state of the obstacle at all times. Thus, it avoids the obstacle successfully and is safe. And lastly, we have the velocity and input plots for both the eyesight-based scenario and the GPS-based scenario. We can see from the velocity plots that the GPS-based scenario was able to plan a little further ahead than the eyesight-based scenario by lowering its velocity, since it had access to the obstacle at all times.